Hello, and welcome to a special edition of Tarot for Our Times. This is Sarah Sachs, your medium on the go, and um, this whole thing with the Joy Reid's show being canceled on MSNBC and all the fallout has kind of built. Well, that happened over the weekend, and it started building to a crescendo, I would say, yesterday, and it was a very teary, dramatic goodbye that she said with some other people. There was uh, Michael. Oh yeah, Rachel Maddow, Michael Steele, and I think that other one that was doing Rachel Slot. I just had a brain freeze on that one. And they were not too complimentary to MSNBC. So, very quickly, I had to do some reading to catch up. Apparently, this new president of MSNBC, a white woman, decided to come in and just change all these things around. And having worked in the corporate world myself, and this takes me back to when I was working for a big hotel in Seattle at the banquet department full time, and we all of a sudden we got a new banquet manager, and he just decided to change everything around. All of a sudden, it was sort of like it wasn't broke, it didn't need to be fixed. And the first meeting he had with us was very much of the energy of the muskrat email thing, and which created a very hostile thing. And he ended up having to call a bunch of people up to apologize. So I understand that on a very small level. It's like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. The majorly hypocritical thing about this is that the those two disasters in the morning, they should have been gone months ago. And instead, they canceled Joy Reid's show, which was very popular. That's a big slot. I mean, that's when the networks have their nightly news and all that sort of thing, at least on the East Coast. And so that it was just very cruel the way they did it. And she had to find out through the grapevine and all this sort of thing. And so that's major hypocrisy, but there's a bigger hypocrisy going on at MSNBC, and that is going back to firing Keith Olbermann and Martin Bashir, who I think is excellent. I remember his interview with Princess Diana back in '95 before he went with MS. It was on 2020. Really good, very, very good interview. And so he made one slip about some crack about Sarah Palin, and he's fired. So this is basic. This is why I don't watch those networks anymore, because that's just hypocrisy. I mean, Joe and Mika can do whatever they want to do, and maybe they get shrunk a little bit, but and then the way he's been so hostile, and I mean, it's just not acceptable. So, okay, so we've had a bigger hypocrisy going on at MSNBC. And so, of course, and I probably put it away, but if you look at the thumbnail, you can see that I thought I'd prepared everything, that I show Joy Reid as the Queen of Wands in the tarot. And the Queen of Wands is she's very inspired. Oh, goody, I found it. Okay. Okay, so the Queen of Wands here. She's got it going. She's very inspiring. She's kind of fiery, can be a little opinionated, but hey, what I saw as Joy Reid on the left, it doesn't hold a candle to those nasty ones on Fox. I mean, so she's a very inspiring, but she's also a mother. She's a career woman or a businesswoman. A lot of times in my private readings, I have likened the Queen of Wands to Lucille Ball, because she was a real pioneer in broadcasting and production. I mean, we wouldn't have had Star Trek without her. And yet she cared a lot about her children. And there's a motherly thing. And it was kind of like magic, because she did that stuff in the 50s that women didn't do. And, we have the sunflower, which is the symbol of spiritualism, but it's a summer energy. And Joy Reid was a kind of a pioneer. I think she may have been the first Black woman to have a prime time slot, which has been that's been the white male thing for so many years. So she had one of the better time slots, and so she really struggled to get where she is, and that is the Queen of Wands. And the Queen of Wands may not have a perfect life, but she always comes back, and that's why I think of the Lucille Ball thing, because she got divorced, her life fell apart, but she was the one that carried on the Desilu Studios. He kind of said, "That's your baby, go with it." So she came back, she got remarried, started a whole new career, and I think this is the essence of the Queen of Wands, and I believe that Joy Reid will also start a whole new career. So let's see if I covered everything I wanted to say in the beginning. So in the reading, so this is Joy Reid. That MSNBC won't extinguish her fire, and she will rise, and that's what the Queen of Wands is all about. And there's so many people. I mean, I think a lot of the readers, and I agree, uh, you know, Kamala Harris was the Queen of Wands. She was also the Queen of Swords. So I think, and Wands along with swords are also communication. So this is very fitting for her. So I want to see what's really behind her show getting canceled, what could be next for her, and what this means for us as far as how we select what the new how we're going to get our news and our commentary. I think what I'm going to try to do is maybe make the last one or two of them a little shorter, so this doesn't go very, very long. And I have been shuffling. So like I did yesterday, I think I'm going to start off with, where are you? Oh, I think I'm going to start off with my newly found, again, Llewellyn deck. This is an interesting deck, because as I got reacquainted with it, I noticed that a lot of the figures in the major and, well, actually in the minor arcana, which are usually presented as male, are changed to female, both in the negative and positive way. And even though they don't have prince and princesses, they do have in the page suite series. I believe that they're kind of androgynous, so they can be taken as male or female. But so I'm going to start out with this, and then of course the good old weight rider to fill in. So let's see, using to see what was really behind this. I mean, she got fired by well, I don't know if I don't think it's getting fired. I think that they were going to move her to some BS time slot, and that maybe to force her to quit. I'm getting a sense forcing her to quit. It's sort of like the plantation owner marries the new woman who becomes the mistress of the plantation and starts doing a lot of stuff that's sort of on the racist side for entertainment purposes only. So that's funny, that plantation thing just popped into my mind. And like everybody from the slaves to the white people and the family are not happy with that. So I'm seeing, could see if she's going to last very long. Okay. So what we have going in the now is, the Seven of Wands in reverse. I'm going to say, as far, and I forget her name, but probably on purpose, I think the whole thing is when this new person walked in, she decided that she doesn't want to have to combat anything, and that it's kind of like taking the easy way out instead of instead of really looking what's going on and what she's against, maybe just nipping it in the bud or not even going here. And the one thing was in one of the articles that I read is that they asked her if Trump had anything to do with this, and we know he was going on a big diatribe about her, that calling her all kinds of names, and she didn't belong on the news, and this and that, and all this kind of awful stuff. She said no, and I said bullshit. Okay. Which made me think I really do not like this person. So the energy we have, oh boy, it's the death card. In this case, is that she's ending careers. She's ending the one for the one that was doing the Rachel Maddow Tuesday through Friday. I wish I could remember her name. It'll maybe come. So it's yep, it's doing that. And so I guess she thinks that with these endings, it's going to revive MSNBC. But I'm telling you, I think the damage has been done. So this is kind of like, I'm going to say, taking the easy way out and kind of going on a, killing spree without even thinking, without really thinking about it. Can hardly wait till we get to the subconscious thing. Okay, so underneath this is okay, the fallen off viewership of MSNBC, and like not like and I've noticed in their feeds on Facebook that they're not really getting to the nitty gritty of the news, so it's like nothing's happening. They probably got a few viewers back, but not many. Then we have she probably has seen this as a big losing proposition, and the whole thing is taking a look at this and know it's not only them, but CNN is leaking, it's hemorrhaging viewers. And I mean, it did like what they did to Don Lemon. I mean, come on. So then we have the King of Cups in reverse, which is saying this whole thing is very toxic. This whole thing of what she's doing is like mental illness of the corporate world. This is all of this that's underneath it. So the opposing thing is the Ace of Cups in reverse, and it's not just about Joy crying on the air, which I saw that, and I think she was trying her best to really contain herself. But I'm going to see behind the scenes. There's a lot of emotional stuff going on, and you could see it in those in the people that she was with who were giving her support. I'm going to say behind the scenes too, because the people, the staff on the readout, they found out online or something. They're really, really angry. So this is like MSNBC inside 30 Rock is Meltdown City. I mean, that's really what it is, and that is in opposition of her agenda. Oh, I keep forgetting to do this. Okay. So then we have in the past, we have the Nine of Pentacles in reverse. I'm going to put this like right after the election. I think before the election coverage, people were getting really turned off and going to Midas Touch and all those others online. And so this is the very once prosperous network. And this could be the whole NBC News thing altogether, hemorrhaging money, like the wealth and the prosperity that they had was really, really starting to tank. And as I understand, and I did some reading after the election about what goes on, and they said that this is not unusual after the election when people are upset, but that it also, you know, for a week or so, it'll be viewership falls off, but it comes back again, and they haven't had it coming back. I mean, that morning thing is forget about it. I used to just turn on Morning Joe kind of for background, and if they had some interesting person, then I would start to pay attention. But I'm not the only one that November 5th, I was no longer watching it. So I want to pick one more card in the past. So I'm going to say this woman was aware of this. She's seen the writing on the wall, except that she hasn't been looking for the real cause. So it's kind of like, let's light that fire and let's burn some stuff down and see what happens. So I'm going to say this. I don't know how this person got to be president. Okay, the interesting part is conscious thoughts. Okay. Conscious thoughts of her, and maybe, she wasn't alone, and maybe the other powers that be. It's like they were not worrying about the right thing. The right thing to worry about was Morning Joe and, so, and the toxicity. And I think that's part of the Ace of Cups in reverse. And the toxicity. I am sure that those other people, in fact, I think Michael Steele got into a fight with them like a couple of months ago, and called them on going down to Mar-a-Lago. So I'm going to say that this is kind of arrogance when being the opposite of the worrying and insomnia. It's sort of like, oh, we're not going to worry. We'll just make the cuts where we think we should make the cuts. Now here goes the subconscious thoughts of her and the others. Here we go. I cannot believe this. You saw me shuffle these cards. Okay. Here we have death is the energy of what's going on. Guess what? And that's the subconscious thing. I think it's the death of maybe, these corporate people, they did contribute. So they're really, the underpinnings of this is the DEI. We want the death of DEI. And, or else our little sheep viewers are not going to be with the ones that are left. They're not going to stay with us. So this is like, let's kill the DEI. But of course, we can't have that out in the conscious world. Really interesting. Okay, so in the midst of all this drama, kind of what's going on with these jokers here. Okay. The Ten of Swords in reverse. I'm going to say that they have the idea that they're probably healing the network by doing what they're doing. I'm going to say this is kind of like the lie that they're telling themselves right now, that this is for the best, then that it's going to make the station all better here. But the waters are the tide. This is interesting because this is different how it varies from the standard deck. The tide is coming in, and the swords are surrounding the person. Usually they're inserted in the back. The tide is coming in, and they're just not thinking. They're capable of getting up and making things right, but they're not. They think that, by canning, or that, forcing this Black woman to retire from her time slot, that a lot of people like, that's going to fix everything. That's where they are now. I think I'm going to throw a clarifier on here. Okay. So we've got the Seven of Pentacles in reverse. When it's upright, this person has doubts about what they've done and what they've built. It's like the second thoughts. Did I plant this tree right? When it's in reverse, they're failing to see that this new stuff is not laying a good foundation. So this is kind of the FA. When this is upright, I've come to call this the FAFO card. When they realize that the harvest is like not really great, they're kind of in denial about that. So this is in denial too. So they're sort of pretty much in denial about yeah, about what they've been planting, but they will have the big FAFO. It's just they're putting off, this one is just putting off the inevitable. So they're living in their little fool's paradise right now. Three of Cups. Wow, no one's celebrating over at 30 Rock. And I'll tell you, then I'm going to say that the MSNBC is only like part of the NBC family. I'm going to say especially the women, because it's not only Joy, but I'm going to say the other women are feeling kind of threatened too, even the white ones. But there are women of color, like the Asian woman. I think she got ditched. And I know that Simone, Michael, and Alicia Mendez, Michael Steele, and Simone I forget her last name. She just got married, so I forget her last name. So they're kind of filling in some of that space temporarily. And I was watching Dr. Rashad's video about this today. I wrote a comment, then all of a sudden I got this big psychic hit about the racial undertones of this. And I said, I think Simone needs to watch her back. And then all of a sudden I typed in, but I think she knows that already. So, not much celebrating. In fact, there could be a female rebellion growing there. So let's see. That's a good place to do in the hopes and the fears. Let's see. This is the Queen of hopes and the fears. The Queen of Cups, which is saying that the usual, kind of like nurturing ladies, whether they're in behind or in front of the cameras, I think they're going to be showing a lot of discontent and unhappy instead of looking into the cup of just staying in their lane with the jobs. That I think maybe, I'm going to say this is more fear than hope. I think that the network fears this could have some emotional repercussions, which leads to something else. But maybe they're also hoping that's what they fear. I think they're hoping they keep their mouth shut. But I don't think that's going to happen. So, going into the near future, we have the Lovers. I'm going to say that could be a lot of the people that in the going from the fear aspect. I think there are a lot of people maybe kind of walking on eggshells and sort of forming their alliances to keep their jobs, because people like Rachel Maddow and Joy Reid, they could probably go just about anywhere. But I'm saying that maybe some of the people behind the scenes, like the ones on her show, are going to be making alliances to watch each other's backs. I hope it isn't going to be backstabbing, but since this is, the serpent there says there may be some temptation to get people to get some discord going in case there's rebellion. But I'm going to say, I think people will be forming alliances to protect themselves. And I think that's already happening. And let's see what else is. I get another sense that some people are going to be walking away. It'll be emotional, and it could be even going back to jobs that they had previous to the big time in New York, and possibly could be maybe figuring going back to their hometown stations or whatever may be more emotionally nurturing at this time. That's interesting. That had not occurred to me. So that's going on. So let's see the outcome of what I think might have been happening is, for the behind the scenes, is that we're going to have to hear a lot of lies about why that happened. I think they're going to make a big effort to say that race and gender had nothing to do with that. And the fact is that they did not, this had nothing to do with Fotis, when we know it probably had a lot to do with him. So I'm going to say the outcome and what's going on with this is that expect a lot of lies. And this is kind of like going back to the 1970s when it was like a kind of okay to do this sort of thing, this profiling thing. But now they just have to be more sneaky about it. So that's why we've got the Ace of Swords in reverse. So what can we learn from this is that Ten of Pentacles, it's the corporation, it's the corporate greed, and it's very possibly part of the crime family. The Ten of Pentacles in reverse is the crime family that has the influence and oligarchs buying. It all began, I guess, symbolically, more or less. The big thing was Rupert Murdoch buying the New York Post in, God, I can't believe that was 50 years ago. In 1975, then the Wall Street Journal, then the this, then the that. And the lesson to be learned is you're not going to have a free mainstream press with these jokers buying it, because I'm going to say this is what we learn. This is behind it, of course, for entertainment purposes only. This is behind it. I believe there was pressure. The woman might have a little bit of an issue with people of color, so maybe that didn't make it that difficult, but this is behind it. The big corruption and the crime family that we now enjoy so much. And that's why I will say this boomer has to hand it to the Gen Z and the millennials for going over to YouTube and podcasts. They beat the older ones to it, but I think as we got closer to the election, the boomers started horning in on, watching these things, which I'm sure it's more than welcome. And in fact, starting their own podcast too, because we're not all like the stereotype of the baby boom generation. Just as people in my parents' generation were not necessarily the Archie Bunkers either. There were a lot of people that had been involved in left-wing politics when they were younger people, and still, had a lot of those beliefs. So at any rate, so I'm kind of seeing this for what this is, and I think a lot of people are too. So let's see what could be next for her. I think I'm going to do this in the more abbreviated, shorter reading. Let's see what's next for her. Because I don't think she's going to have any trouble, but I think I'm just going to use these little ones in a very quick spread, and because I do want to spend a little bit more time on what this means for us and the future of the news media. I think the internet saves us from, Russia put this, they had their Fox News in place probably by the 1930s. With Stalin and everything, but with us and the internet and the Constitution, they can buy up all of that stuff, but we're just not going to go to them anymore. That's all there is to it. So Let's see what could be next for Joy. Some people have said that maybe Midas Touch has been approaching her, but let's see. Okay. This is very interesting, and I'm going to say being a very big one for free will, because this would definitely be Joy Reid's choice. She could have a lawsuit. I mean, if, especially after the first reading, if we can see that, that there might have been some racial and sexist things, there could be a lawsuit for this. And this is Upright, which is saying it would be probably never even make it to the court, that they would give her a nice big fat settlement, or she may decide to take it to really get her point across. I'm saying she may not decide to do that, but if she does, I think this says she would really have it in her favor. If you can hear me out there, Joy. So, on top of that, we have, I think right now, she needs to do some healing and maybe not make any hasty decisions or negotiations about moving forward just yet. I mean, we got to give these critters down here a little bit of a rest. I think right now it's like regrouping and that sort of thing. So we got that with Justice, and then we have, she needs the time to grieve, and I'm going to say, with I think with her female colleagues like Rachel and some of the, maybe some others on other networks, and also with her, women of color friends too. But I'm seeing that she needs to grieve, and she'll be doing it with colleagues and a lot of female energy. I think that would be very healing for her. So I'm sort of seeing her not making, maybe taking a little bit of a rest and not making any hasty decisions. Then we have, but then when she gets back in the game, and I don't see her, see, this is an artist. Would be her as the artist up on the bench, and she would be bargaining from an advantage because she was so popular. I'm going to say that since this guy here is an artist, that artists really don't do big established things, that she may be going the more, because I think this YouTube internet thing, that's the wave of the future, and people have more latitude to be creative. But at the same time, she's going to strike a very good bargain with whomever she decides to go with. And I do see her coming back with some podcasts, but I think she will be very creative, and will probably get on one of these, because Midas Touch and Occupy Democrats and all these other progressive things, they have so many people that are hosts, and they've splintered off into the legal things. So I think that one of them, she may get a platform of her own, but she's going to really bargain. So maybe she won't run into what she did with MSNBC. So that's what I'm seeing. So the icing on the cake conclusion topper will be High Priestess in reverse. I'm going to say she probably knows the darker side of this whole network thing. And I think right now she's got to maybe really think about what she wants to reveal, that sort of thing. But I'm going to say that there could be something in her talking about the toxicity, and some of the, when maybe without naming names, to avoid the lawsuits, but to talk about what is going on with these people that make the decisions, and maybe, what organizations and who they've contributed to, without incurring lawsuits like, oh, they donated X amount to the Trump campaigns. And maybe some of the, I think there may be a lot of sexual harassment and all kind. I know at Fox News that's rampant, but she may be doing something about how really messed up these things are, and that they do have to answer to the corporate. That she's going to be okay, because this Three of Pentacles is saying she's gonna be able to write her own ticket for whatever she does. But I think right now she's trying to probably think about where can she do the most good. Actually, where can she do the most good? So I knew that I wouldn't really need to do a tremendously long read on that. So the big important thing is the big picture, because I did talk about, the Martin Bashir, Keith Olbermann, and all of this stuff. When you think, and it, this is like the Al Franken thing, like it's like stupid, really stupid stuff that maybe an apology would have said, gee, I don't exactly love Sarah Palin, but I think I apologize for being inappropriate about it. That should have been the end of it. That's why it was the first thing I thought of when when the MSNBC did like next to nothing about Joe and Mika and all of the, and that's what, maybe that might be an expose that Joy would do, is the thinking behind of giving Joe and Mika a free pass when their ratings were tanking. That's the thing, their ratings were tanking. So I've been shuffling these along. So let's see, what is this going to mean for news platforms? This kind of a firing, because I'm sorry, there really are gender and racial undertones. Nobody is ever going to convince me differently, and I think the cards are saying it, even though it is for entertainment purposes only. And with this whole DEI stuff, that it's becoming more acceptable, which I find incredibly disturbing. Okay, now I remembered to do this before I get halfway through the spread. Okay, so we have the King of Wands in reverse, Mr. Muskrat energy. I mean, I kind of wasn't expecting it, but I shouldn't be surprised. Okay, with the Muskrat energy, he's got his grubby little paws into everything. And who's to say that, I know that Fotis made a big, stinky, ugly tirade about her. But I'm going to say that the Muskrat was lighting the fuse for that. And I think he may start to bully these networks into doing what he wants, or else. I'm not too sure of what the or else. I guess whatever that ketamine fueled mind of his comes up with in the way of threats, because that's how he rolls. So I'm going to say it's not looking too good. Okay. Then we have the energy. Three of Swords in reverse. So this is telling me there is a lot of heartache with this. But I will say, since it's in reverse, I don't think he's actually going to win with this. So since it's in reverse, I think they may make it through the storm. But I'm telling you, they're going to have to make better decisions. But I'm going to say, if he is rejected, and that's what reverse can also mean, is like, okay, we'll suck up to the big oligarchs, but you're a little bit too beyond the pale. And so if there is a little bit of healing, maybe some people will come to their senses. I don't think people like that should be allowed to own media. Okay, so underneath here is, yep, the big wigs at the networks and cable stations are really worrying about serving their masters. This is what they're worrying about, and this is what they've been worrying about for quite some time. That's why the coverage of the election was so appalling, with the double standard between Biden and Trump. So we got that. Okay. The Knight of Swords in reverse. That tells me that there are going to be some people really, really shooting off their mouths. And it may not be the old school slipping off to the New York Times with a ton of papers. That's kind of really old school. But I'm going to say that it could be at a party with a little bit too much alcohol served, where there may be some people from other media there, or the people from the alternative media there who may have their phones going and you might hear a little bit too much. So this could be a problem. And I just think there's like a whole cesspool underneath all of this that could be revealed. But I'm going to say not through calculation, but maybe more through carelessness, because I'm going to say that I also suspect that those organizations are from the very top on are fueled by drugs and booze. Then we have, and then we have the people judging them very, very bad. Judgment is going to tank. I mean, you kind of wonder if they're even going to survive. That maybe with this, that might be the rejection of they're not going to listen to everything that Muskrat and his first lady have to say. Okay. Very, very bad judgment. This is kind of interesting. So, opposing all of this, we have the emotional level. I'm going to say that even when the tsunami over Joy Reid and others simmers down, there will still be heightened emotional energy. And with all of these moons, that's a very female thing, and it is the cycles of the month. So I remember from places where I used to work is that, and they say this is very common, as those of us that were still of childbearing years, we were all going through, eventually going through PMS and everything else at the same time. I think that they're going to be dealing with this energy because I keep getting this whole female thing. And so this is a really interesting kind of thing. So in the past of this, we've had the truth coming out. I'm going to say, and this kind of ties in with the whether she does an expose or not. Truth is going to be coming out, and the truth, and people have been seeing the truth. This comes down to the oligarchs and this new, whatever her name is, coming in and insulting our intelligence. It's like we know the truth, but they choose to insult our intelligence. So we've got that there. So, in the conscious thoughts of where this is going is again the Knight of Wands. This is sort of like he is the impulsive, fiery knight, and I am going to say it's quite possible that there is some youthful energy that's, I'm going to say then that's all on the alternate stuff that's kind of burning it down. That what this is telling me is that consciously they know that this is really taking off. That Midas touch, all those others, those are taking off, and that their people may be leaving to go to those because the hours are better. They could eventually end up making just as much money. So this could be, the message has gotten through. That's time to like burn this stuff down and go over and go with the winner. So subconscious thoughts is the Six of Pentacles. So I think subconsciously, in order to prevent this happening, underneath it's kind of like, well, what more can we give this probably white male talent? Hate to say that. Some incentives to stay, which is a charitable thing, but oh, maybe not too much. So subconsciously, they know that they're probably going to have to try to sweeten the pot, and whether that works or not, I don't know. Let's see if I can throw in a. Okay. It doesn't look like that this may be something that they're going to be able to ward off in too great of a degree. So just had to do that. Okay. So what is going on now is the hanging man in this whole situation. They're I think what they're trying to do with all this fallout that's going, and maybe wondering about the future, because this subconscious thing is maybe we have to buy our future if we are going to have one in this. But maybe that they may stop doing this stuff and maybe try to see this from a whole new angle. But the chains are saying, but they're still not going anywhere. They may change their perspective, but it doesn't mean that that's going to change. With I think the whole thing is that they may be fighting with time. And the unfortunate thing is they only have themselves to blame. So let's see, we have coming up in the hopes and the fears. Okay. The hopes is that they can keep their alliances with the people that keep this going. I'm going to say in front of the camera, behind the camera, but I'm going to say, but the people that work there may see something fishy, and it's going to be the hopes is that they can do it, but with these people sort of floating in space a bit and looking out to the horizons, like over the rainbow of this, they fear that they may not be able to keep a lot of people that they would really like to keep. So coming up in the future is that as the whole way that we are looking at the media for news is really going to cause quite a bit of worry with the old guard. I'm going to say worry enough that maybe the oligarchs, the Rupert Murdoch types, and some god awful people even bought the Post Gazette in Pittsburgh. It's everywhere. That maybe this isn't the best investment, but they still want to control our thoughts, but maybe they realize no, they're not, because we're going elsewhere. So this could be worrying and thinking that maybe we need to put our money somewhere else. That's really interesting. I hadn't thought of that one coming up. So, and as more, and it's not just Joy, but I think there are others that may be bailing. I wouldn't put it past Don Lemon at all. Is that they're going to be letting people know about the dirty little secrets of this corporate media stuff. And I'm going to say that this is the worry. This is the worry that these people have, and that maybe it isn't worth it, that they're by. All it's going to do is put them in some kind of, even if they have the money and the lawyers to avoid stuff, their reputations are going to be ruined in marriages. So maybe they just, I'm seeing that maybe they pull out of it, because would there be a rebirth? I don't know. Let's see if there would be. Okay. Yep, there could be a new message. There could be a new message that to save this, they're going to have to begin and start all over again. And I believe that it probably could be with new ownership. Now, this isn't anything that's going to happen overnight, but that could happen eventually. So let's see, what could the outcome of this be? The Emperor. Okay, so I see this upright. He's the benevolent emperor. I'm going to say see new leadership and maybe kind of like old school owners of media that like back in the old days it was kind of passed through generations and they were all about the news and journalism and integrity, and he's carrying some new stuff in there. So eventually it could be that because they cannot go on, they can't go on the way they are. And I think the Joy Reid thing is it's just a catalyst. So this is something that very well, this could be 5 years, it could be next year, I don't know, but I'm seeing some of like the old school owners and not like Hearst. I think Hearst was also I think Hearst was also a problem with this as he got more corporate. And I highly, highly recommend that you see the 1941 movie Citizen Kane because it basically is about the dawn of how this mess began over like about 120 years ago in the early part of the 20th century. It was about selling newspapers, but then he became corrupt. Was a joy at first. He became corrupt. So that's kind of like the old school robber baron style of newspaper owners, but it is evolved. This is what this is telling me. This has evolved into the mess that it is today. So I would say that maybe just groups of people who are idealistic about journalism, but I guess there will always be the William Randolph Hearst as portrayed by is Charles Kane in Citizen Kane. And he actually tried to stop having that movie, which I consider the best movie ever made, from being made. So there's always been some forces out there to stop the truth from coming out. But the truth always, that 1941-42 thing is a lesson that the truth always comes out eventually. So uh, whether people with integrity, it's just, but they could morph into that. So it's just something that we watch, but maybe we could get a reprieve in years to come. So what have we learned from this is for so many years we've been letting them throw up the smoke and mirrors. And I think people are done with that. I would say that anybody like this emperor in the future, he better really start a newspaper or a media platform because as it began with Kane in that movie, he thought it would be fun to run a newspaper until he got corrupted. So I would say I think that that would be the best energy for anybody wishing to start their own media. It would be fun to do that, and I'm going to make sure I do it with integrity. So I would say that I would say people are just not buying that old stuff anymore. So that's what we have to learn. And unfortunately, Joy Reid has to be the catalyst that could be bringing all of this to the forefront. So I think that it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen. But I'm telling you, this is not going to stop people from going to over to even the conservative people. Well, they've all gone to Fox News, but Midas Touch is beating out Fox News, which is the most popular cable thing because the old fogies, that's what they've got on their cable stuff. So I would say that maybe the whole thing kind of has to crash and burn, and maybe it's funny that the tower didn't come up, but it wouldn't be sudden. It's tower is very sudden. I would say this is devolving. So it depends on what happens, what decisions are made to how fast that's going to happen. But something new could come out of the ashes, but it's going to have to be different. So on that, I'm going to say goodbye for now, and I will sign off. See you soon. Bye.